first time.
Oh.
He would be in his early 30s at the Siege of Constantinople in 717. There are also some made-up additional characters. Instead of Theodora, Justinian's Khazar wife, we have Theodora, the sexy scheming lady. She is the main reason there is so much chaos at the Roman court. She betrayed...
Bro. Bro. Alright, continuing with the suggestions to me.
If you ask a random person on the street,
how does the Arab world view the Roman Empire? This is going to be interesting. I feel like I'm going to have a lot to say in this one.
To name a Roman emperor, the two most popular answers you're going to get would be get lost and Caesar. If you go to Italy or Greece, you may actually get a reasonable answer, like Augustus, Trajan or Constantine. But what was really interesting to me is to see how people outside of Europe perceive the Roman Empire. In this regard, the Arab world is uniquely fascinating. The Arabs had a complex relationship with the Eastern Romans, which coincided with the period of their cultural dominance. And the way they look at the history of the Roman Empire would be different from the European perspective. Of course, academics throughout the world...
I feel like, based on... Okay, I'm not going to say nothing yet. I'm not going to say
more or less
nothing yet.
The same sources, but the layman's perception is shaped mostly by popular media, such as movies and TV. And that is what I wanted to explore in this video. We're going to look into 3 progressively more obscure pieces of Arabic historical media and see how they depict the Eastern Romans and their relationship with the Muslim world. There is very little Arabic media about the pre-Islamic times, so naturally the first emperor we're going to discuss is Heraclius. Heraclius has a special place in the Muslim tradition. He was the Roman emperor during the rise of Islam, and his deeds are even mentioned in the Quran. The 30th chapter of the Quran is called Surah Ar-Rum, the chapter about the Romans. It tells about the war in which the Romans initially suffer a defeat, but it is prophesied that they will be victorious in the end. The Romans have been defeated.
I think I had some comments tell me about this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did, yeah.
The lowest land. Yet following their defeat, they will triumph in a few years. The decision of the matter, before and after, is with Allah. And on that day, the believers will rejoice at the victory willed by Allah. He gives victory to whomever He wills, for He is the Almighty, the Most Merciful. This verse refers to the first phase of the war between the Eastern Roman Empire and the Sasanian Persia. Roman forces suffered a massive defeat in the Levant right after Heraclius took power, and the Persians captured Jerusalem in AD 614. But in 622, Heraclius himself...
I did not know that the Sassanid Persians pushed all the way into North Africa, almost to Carthage. Wow.
...took the field, won a victory against the Persians, and turned the tide of war. The words "the lowest land" are also sometimes translated as simply "the nearby land." Both translations can be fitting. Roman Palestina was close to the Arabian desert, hence the nearby land. And the Dead Sea region is also the lowest point of the dry land on Earth, lying 400 meters below sea level, so the lowest land can also apply. The date of Muhammad's revelation is AD 610, so the defeat suffered by the Romans presented a spiritual challenge to the early Muslim community. If the God of Abraham is the one true God, how could the Romans, his followers, be losing to the fire-worshipping Persians? The surah sends a reassuring message that God will in the end give victory to the believers. The fulfillment of this prophecy by the Roman triumphs in the 620s must have given the early Muslim communities a big boost of confidence. Another reason why Heraclius is well known in the Muslim world is his response to Muhammad's message. In the Islamic tradition, there is a story about the letters that the Prophet sent to the nearby countries. Among those were the Roman and the Persian empires. The Persian Shah Khosrow II reportedly tore the letter and insulted Muhammad, so the Prophet said that Khosrow's kingdom will be destroyed, like he destroyed the letter. Khosrow was killed in the same year, and in a couple of decades all of Persia was under the Muslim control. This story is also very popular in the Islamic culture. One of the most well-known nasheeds has the verse, "We are the ones who built our fortresses with skulls. We drove..."
Did he just do like a runoff sentence? He just did a runoff sentence. Wait. If you don't know what a runoff sentence is to all my non-English speakers, because I have a bunch of non-native English speaker. It's basically like when you're in the middle of a sentence and you're like completely like switch topic without completing that sentence, and then it starts to sound confusing.
Khosrow's women with our whips to the slave markets. So as you can see, Muslims don't really like Khosrow II. Heraclius is a different story.
Oh wait, no, never mind. He didn't.
Muhammad's message was more measured and respectful. According to a collection of hadiths called Sahih al-Bukhari, Heraclius, upon receiving the letter, found a person most familiar with Muhammad and brought him in to answer some questions. This was Muhammad's cousin, Abu Sufyan, who was a trader from the Quraysh tribe.
Oh wow.
He hasn't yet converted to Islam, and in fact was one of the leaders of Meccan opposition to Muhammad.
Oh.
Heraclius questioned him about Muhammad and his followers. His answers convinced Heraclius that the prophet was preaching a true faith. The emperor then proposed that all Romans should convert to the religion of this new apostle. But everyone around him was so bewildered by this notion that he went back on this idea and acted like this was all just a prank.
Ah, poor Heraclius. Poor Heraclius. Holy hell. Imagine a timeline where we got a freaking Roman Empire that is Islamic. Would that be like the same as... Would that really affect anything? Because Turkey would eventually replace the Roman Empire as the hegemon of that region, and they were Islamic, right? I wanted to say replace. I'm not saying Turkey, like the Ottoman Empire was not. I'm not saying the Ottoman Empire was the Roman Empire. Oh gosh, no. No, but Turkey will eventually replace them. Basically have almost the same borders as them somewhat. So it's like, would anything really change? Would that really affect anything in an alternate timeline? I guess it would, but like, I feel like Islam would probably still be at the same borders that it is today. Yeah, probably.
O Romans, if success is your desire, and if you seek right guidance and want your empire to remain, then give a pledge of allegiance to this prophet. The people ran towards the gates of the palace like onagers, but found the doors closed. Heraclius realized their hatred towards Islam, and when he lost the hope of their embracing Islam, he ordered that they should be brought back in audience. He said, "What already said was just to test the strength of your conviction, and I have seen it." The people prostrated.
Stop the cat. Stop the cat right now. Oh, that meme is so perfect for this.
Before him and became pleased with him. And this was the end of Heraclius' story. Abu Sufyan was so impressed that a king of such a powerful tribe was taken by Muhammad's words that he decided to convert to Islam. The accuracy of the story told in the hadith is quite dubious. Some questions asked by Heraclius aren't really relevant, and some of Abu Sufyan's answers don't agree with the reality. For instance, Heraclius asks if anyone has left Muhammad's religion, and Abu Sufyan answers no, even though his own son-in-law has recently converted from Islam to Christianity. Nevertheless, this story is highly regarded by Sunni Muslims and is widely accepted, at least in some form. Among other things, it served as an explanation as to why the Roman Empire remained unconquered. The contrast between the insulting response of Khosrow and the sympathetic reaction of Heraclius provided a divine justification for the destruction of the Persian Empire and the survival of the Roman. The birth of Islam is one of the most popular themes in Arabic media, so naturally Heraclius' story found its way to the big screen as well.
Of course, yeah.
For example, in the 1976 film called The Message. The main story chronicles the life of Muhammad in Arabia, but at the beginning of the film there is a scene of three messengers coming to the courts of the Roman Emperor, Sassanid Shah, and the Patriarch of Alexandria. The last one is the funniest because they depict a man from Bronze Age Egypt sitting on the throne decorated with ankhs. It's one of those Egypt equals pyramids and pharaohs moments. Khosrow insults the messenger and tears up the letter, but Heraclius is more considerate. The film doesn't go as far as the story from the Hadith, and doesn't show Heraclius accepting Islam or feigning the conversion to test his subjects, but he displays some interest and draws parallels between the Muhammad's messenger and John the Baptist preaching the word of Christ. The rest of the movie has little to do with Roman history, but is still a good time if you're interested in history of early Islam. It has separate English and Arabic versions, and was even nominated for an Oscar for Best Original Score.
Oh, wow.
In fact, the production of the message was sponsored by none other than Muammar Gaddafi. It was also subject to controversy.
Bro, can we get F in chat for Gaddafi? Gaddafi, victim of Western imperialism. Get an F in. Of course he would sponsor this message. Gaddafi was based. Seriously. But, you know, when you try to oppose America's interest, you gotta go. Honestly, heartbreaking what happened to him. I've seen his dreams get crushed. I mean, imagine what Libya would be today if he was still around, right? I mean, Libya would probably be much more prosperous today. It was on the path to become prosperous, but nope. And it's funny how I still see people in my comments like me writing America too. Like, yeah, sure. But that's a whole different video.
In 1977, a group of American Muslims called the Hanafi movement seized 3 government buildings. One of their demands was the cancellation of the premiere and the destruction of all the copies of this film, which they considered sacrilegious. Luckily, these days no one's going to issue a fatwa against you for watching a movie, so it's safe to check it out. Another popular figure in the Arabic historical media is Harun al-Rashid. His portrayals tend to focus on the internal politics of Abbasid court, but I managed to find an episode that deals with the relations between the Caliphate and the Roman Empire. It's from the 2017 TV series called The Imam, made by a Qatar Media Foundation.
I mean, wouldn't it be better if you find like actual like documents? I mean, I guess, yeah, you can use like TV series because they would hopefully base it off like what actually happened, but it's like that could have a lot of problems in it, but I don't know, we'll see.
The main character of the series is the 4th Imam of Islam, Ahmed bin Hamdal, but Harun al-Rashid is also featured prominently. At one point of the show, the issue of the Roman tribute to the Caliphate is brought up. Harun receives a letter from one Nicephor, king of Rome, who is obviously Roman Emperor Nicephorus I. Nicephor writes, "The queen before me was soft and peaceful, and gave money with no hesitation, but that's because women are weak and foolish." Then he tells the Caliph that he is not going to give any more tribute to him, and that Harun should also give all of that money back, or else. The Caliph is understandably angry and writes a response calling Nicephorus Dog of Rome. He then marches his armies against Nicephorus and defeats him in a very silly-looking battle. The battle scene looks like it's from a Bollywood action movie. They even fight each other in a single combat. I couldn't quite figure out whether he kills Nicephorus or not. The Wikipedia page of the series says that he does, and there is a spear sticking out of Emperor's back in the last scene we see him, but despite that he still looks alive. The Muslim victory is complete, and they celebrate with the usual chants of Allah Akbar. This whole sequence mixes up historical facts with a lot of
Again, I said this in one of my early Muslim expansion series. It's like, this is my Crusade reaction series I'm doing. I just find it funny when 2 Abrahamic religions are fighting each other, typically Christianity and Islam, and it's like they're saying God is the greatest, Allah Akbar, but it's like the Christians are also chanting chants from God, right? So it's like they're both chanting for God asking for God's help. Basically, just asking for plot armor from God in layman's terms, as I like to say. Freaking hell. Still a bit sick, but it's like whose side is God really on? Like, think about it. Like, imagine your God, you're just seeing this. Like, what do you do in that? I guess you would side with the one that's the true religion. I guess.
Fiction. The historically accurate part is that there was a tribute to the caliphate established during the reign of Nicephorus' predecessor, Empress Harun, and that Nicephorus refused to pay it. But he didn't write a brazenly threatening announcement to Harun al-Rashid. He simply stopped sending money. The caliph retaliated with a series of raids. Both al-Rashid and Nicephorus led the armies themselves, but they never personally met in battle. In 804, Nicephorus suffered a serious defeat and was wounded, but Harun was not present in that battle. When the caliph personally led the invasion in 806, his force was so massive that Nicephorus avoided pitched battle and simply shadowed the Arab army around Anatolia. They exchanged letters and signed a treaty which resumed the payment of tribute. However, Nicephorus almost immediately went back on it and refused to pay once again. This time his gamble paid off. The caliph went east to deal with unrest in Khorasan and died shortly after. His successors were too busy squabbling with each other to address the issue of Roman tribute. Thus, Nicephorus.
So I guess plot armor was on the God's Christians. I guess plot armor was on their side.
Was ultimately successful in freeing the Byzantine treasury from the burden of payments to the Arabs. Despite their underwhelming results, Harun al-Rashid's Anatolian campaigns are often dramatized by the Muslim sources. The campaign of 806 sometimes gets mixed up with that of 782, in which Harun reached the Bosphorus and established the tribute. Other sources just straight up introduce fictional events. For instance, there is a 17th century Turkish writer, Evliya Çelebi, who tells that Harun took Constantinople and hanged Nicephorus in Hagia Sophia. The creator.
Also, I want to point this out, right? So again, a bunch of Muslim Islamic people on my Islam series that I've been reacting to, basically when I point out the fact that the Arab Caliphate really and truly was no different than any other empire throughout history, and no different than your average European empire. And this almost went over my mind, but I was just realized, again, if it was truly sunshine and rainbows, right? Like I always like to say, I mean, if the Arab Caliphate was truly just sunshine and rainbows, I mean, why are they going around and demanding tribute from other places that are foreign to them? That's the word I'm looking for. That are foreign to them, right? I'll see a whole bunch of Muslims. They like to say, I've had people in my comments say this, but if you compare Britain and India, for example, Britain was extracting taxation or whatever and wealth from India, and it wasn't going back to India, right? But here we have the Muslim Empire, which caliphate literally translates to empire, by the way. So it's like, what the hell? We have the caliphate basically doing the exact same thing, extracting wealth from other places and not giving back to those places, right? Especially with the whole tribute system that it was doing to the Roman Empire. And it was affecting the Roman Empire so much that, well, I mean, we saw what he had to do. He had to get up and try to stop it because it was draining the Roman Empire's coffin, right? But again, you see, I'm just pointing out the double standards. Look, I personally do not care what the caliphate does or what happened, right? I personally don't. But when you start putting double standards, right, you start bashing, in my case, you start bashing the British Empire, which I am fully aware of all the things that the British Empire did that wasn't morally right. That's the thing. I'm aware of it. But I'm also aware that wasn't like the whole point of the British Empire. Right? When you start having double standards like that, and then you excuse stuff like this, right? That's when I start to fall bad friends, right? That's when I start to like I can't speak with you anymore, right? Really and truly. It's the same thing with assimilation, right? I have Turkic people who this is just one Turkic person, to be honest. But to be honest, it's usually Turkic people who cannot accept what assimilating and becoming anglicized is. But when it's Turkicized people, for instance, the Ottoman Janissaries, right? They were literally assimilated, right? They were assimilated Europeans that were basically Turkicized. And they were slaves. Janissaries were slaves, right? They were literally conquered, kidnapped, and turned into slaves and Turkicized. Wait, so when it's Turkicized people, A-okay. But when it's anglicized people like me, oh no, boo-hoo, boo-hoo, how dare you? How dare I be assimilated into a specific country that went and colonized my uninhabited island that would become my country? Oh, how dare I, right? Like, how dare I become assimilated and anglicized, right? I mean, again, I'm just calling out the double standards. Okay, like I'm calling out the double standards, bro. Like, some people here think that I'm just completely ignorant, and there's a lot of things I'm ignorant about. But like, bro, and if you've been watching my content for a while, I think you should realize that I'm not your average reactor. Okay, like I actually have a brain. Okay, like seriously, and I'm actually quite more knowledgeable than your average reactor. Okay, so again, another double standard there shown to us that coincidentally nobody from my Muslim community is not talking about. But let's continue.
And hanged Nicephorus in Hagia Sophia. The creators of the Imam clearly preferred a more fictionalized approach. You can watch the whole thing with English subtitles on YouTube, but I can't recommend it to those of you who appreciate historical accuracy.
I might check it out.
The roles of the two Roman emperors we've seen so far are very episodic. Turns out Arabic movies with Eastern Roman characters in substantial roles aren't easy to come by, especially when you don't speak Arabic. But seek and ye shall find. The search was not easy, but Allah, the Almighty, the Most Merciful, rewarded my perseverance with a real diamond in the rough. It's a 30-episode long TV series called Faris Bani Marwan, made in Syria in 2003. It tells the life story of Maslama, the general who led the Arab siege of Constantinople in AD 717. By the way, apparently most of Arabic TV shows are made in 30 episodes, so there is an episode for each night of Ramadan. The main character of Faris Bani Marwan is the Muslim general, so most of its events take place in the Umayyad Caliphate. But it still follows the developments in Constantinople very closely. Almost every single one of its first 24 episodes has at least one scene about the Eastern Roman characters. The Roman subplot revolves around the career of future Emperor Leo III and is treated with the same level of attention as the main narrative. It starts during the first reign of Justinian II and ends with the siege of Constantinople. The level of detail they put into fleshing out this story is incredible. They go through every single Roman emperor of the 20 years anarchy in the correct order. There is Justinian II, Leontius, Tiberius III, Justinian again but without the nose, then Philippicus, then these two guys who I assume are Anastasius II and Theodosius III, and finally Leo. Other Eastern Roman characters are also represented. There is Artabazdos, Leo's friend and son-in-law, General Heraclius, brother of usurper Leontius, and others. Of course, not everything is made perfectly accurate. For instance, they needed to introduce Leo from the beginning of the show, so he's already a middle-aged man in the first episode. In reality, he was around 10 years old when Justinian II was deposed for the first time.
Oh.
He would be in his early 30s at the siege of Constantinople in 717. There are also some made-up additional characters. Instead of Theodora, Justinian's Khazar wife, we have Theodora, the sexy scheming lady. She is the main reason there is so much chaos at the Roman court. She betrayed...
Bro. 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 Oh, man. Bro, that's funny.
Something like 4 out of 7 emperors on the list. The costumes and the sets aren't top-notch. Roman officers all wear the Attic helmet from the early imperial times, but it's something to be expected from such a modest production. What the show does well is portraying the historical Roman figures as complex characters. Everyone has some distinguishing trait. Justinian is energetic but impulsive and fickle. Leo is calm and cunning. And even every short-lived usurper has something special about him. Sadly, it was hard for me to appreciate a lot of it, because I don't speak Arabic, and the show doesn't have English subtitles. For the bulk of the runtime, I had to rely on the general vibe and my knowledge of historical events to understand what's going on. This approach worked better than I expected, but it has obvious limitations. I wanted to understand the portrayal of the relationship between Leo.
So, honestly, I really expected this to be the Arab view of the Roman Empire to be kind of more negative, to be honest. Or more like super duper ultra nationalistic. Because, again, with the whole Constantinople, I had a bunch of Arabs like comment, not like Arabs, I should say Muslim. But this is the Arab world, though. The Arab world isn't just Islam, really and truly. So, although it does compose a majority Islam, I kind of expected this to be like the prophesizing of the conquest of Constantinople, basically glazing the conquest of Constantinople. I still think that was extremely underwhelming. Our siege, I think that was still underwhelming of a siege, but I see a lot of Muslims, not Arabs, like actual Muslims, like who love to glaze conquest of Constantinople. Or I was like expecting more glazing of the Arab conquest of the like Egypt and parts of North Africa, right? That we are on, but or we didn't really get that. We didn't really get that. I was kind of surprised. But very interesting. It's kind of underwhelming what we've gotten. Really underwhelming. I'm kind of shocked. I'll say that. Kind of shocked. Although compared to the way how the West romanticizes the Roman Empire. No pun intended. The Arabs don't do that. They view the Roman Empire in a more realistic, objective manner. Granted, the Arabs do romanticize their own stuff. Not saying that they don't. They do. But I'm just saying, I was just expecting more, haha, we conquered the Roman Empire, haha, you know, type of deal. But no mention of Khalid, no mention of any of that. Nope. Okay.
Leo and Maslama, and I couldn't do it without at least a rough translation of their dialogues. Luckily, our Discord has a man who was willing to help me with that. Thanks to him, I can tell exactly how much of Leo's story is kept in the show, and how much is omitted. Both Byzantine and Arab histories tell us that Leo continuously made fools of his Muslim counterparts. His biggest trick was making Maslama burn his supplies. Leo told Maslama that he was willing to open the gates and become the vassal of the Caliph, but the people of Constantinople won't accept it if they think that there is still hope of holding the city. But if the Muslim general burned his supplies, it would send the message that the Arabs were gearing up for the final assault, and then Leo would be able to convince the population to surrender. Of course, when Maslama burned his grain, Leo acted like there was no deal in place, and the Arab general just wasted most of his army provisions for nothing. To translate this story to the screen without making the protagonist
What? Did that actually happen?
look like a chump, the show creators slightly changed the story of Leo's deception and combined it with other events of the siege.
Wait. That actually... I need more details on this. Somebody please give me more details on that. What?
Before Leo becomes the emperor, we see him discussing a possibility of Roman surrender with Maslama. Then, when the Arab armies reach Constantinople, Maslama is greeted by an envoy who gives him a golden key. However, the Arabs soon discover that it was simply a ruse. While they were distracted by the delegation, Roman saboteurs set their food supply on fire. The same fate befell their fleet. The budget was obviously too small to depict the actual naval battle,
So this is actually what happened? No, I still need somebody to elaborate on this for me.
To its aftermath. Still, it's very close to the spirit of the historical events during the siege. This is something that the series does well. With a very limited ability to show warfare on the screen, they always at least verbally mention the historical circumstances of characters' actions and decisions. Leontius, for instance, is concerned about the capture of Carthage.
I'm gonna tell you something right now. Okay, that's probably how combat was, but a lot of combat probably was a game of chicken, really and truly. Like, but your two sides have swords, and you're too scared to expose yourself, right? So you're just there. If you don't have a shield, it's probably more mobile if you don't have a shield. But if you do have a shield, it was just a game of chicken and trying to quickly jab at someone, and trying not to get yourself jabbed at. Not all that moving around, because if you're moving around, you're exposing yourself and you're eventually going to get jabbed and probably get a blade through your chest or neck or get decapitated or something, right? So I just want to point that out.
Something that historically became his downfall. This may not be too important for most viewers, but I really appreciated the effort put into preserving the historical background of the show.
Oh my gosh, look at what the heck. Oh my gosh, the way how that guy just got freaking... I don't want to say a word because I want to keep my video demonetized. Yo, I've had like 3 videos in a row, I think, got demonetized temporarily, and I had like YouTube review them. That's what I'm telling you. Like, you see when I say, oh, I don't want to say this, I don't want to say that, I don't want to say the next, because I don't want myself to get... Dude, I'm telling you, YouTube, you could say the slightest thing, bro. Boom, demonetized. Like, ugh, it's annoying.
At the end of the siege, they address each other as friends.
Or even worse, you get shadow banned.
Despite being on the opposite side of this civilizational conflict. The sympathetic portrayal of Leo III in a Syrian TV show isn't accidental. Leo was born on the Arab frontier and is sometimes called Leo the Syrian, so there is probably a bit of national pride for his achievements among the Syrians. This may be one of the reasons why the Roman subplot is treated with the same reverence as the Arab side of the story. The existence of this series was a pleasant surprise for me. 20 Years Anarchy is such an underappreciated historical period that we can safely assume there's not going to be anything comparable produced in America or Europe anytime soon.
Of course not, duh. Like you think American, you're gonna care about this? Hell no. Oh my goodness, no. No.
From what you've seen, you've probably figured out that the production quality of this series isn't the highest. 360p is the best resolution I could find for it, and some of the sound choices are questionable. Apart from an absolute banger of an opening theme, the rest of the music is pretty mediocre. In some places they just use the music from Harry Potter. But if we upscale the image quality, put another soundtrack, and add English subtitles, it is going to be the greatest treat for every fan of Eastern Roman history.
That's actually nice that there's movies out there like this, though. We need more movies like it. We should get movies of the Roman Empire before it broke apart. But like more Eastern Roman history, that's actually...
So this concludes my venture into the world of Arabic historical media. The portrayals of the Eastern Roman characters in the examples that I've covered match the key events in the Arab-Roman relations in which the Arabs had the upper hand: the rise of Islam, the siege of 717, and the golden age of the Abbasids. Sadly, only one of these portrayals goes deeply into Byzantine history. Still, it was a nice surprise to see at least one thoughtful depiction of the Eastern Roman Empire from the outside perspective. There may be more hidden gems that I was unable to find because of the language barrier, but the few pieces that I discovered give us at least some impression of how the Arab world views the Eastern Roman Empire. If you have some questions about the topic, or want a similar video made about historical media in other languages, let me know in the comments. I'm thinking about making a video like this one about Turkish movies, but I'd need to first clear much of my backlog. Until then, thanks a lot for watching till the end, and I will see you in the next one.
Very interesting. Again, it's I got a quite different version of what I was expecting, to be honest. But seems like the Arab views the Roman Empire much with respect. I mean, yeah, it doesn't shock me, to be honest, but I still expected a bit more glazing. If you don't know what glazing is, it's just a slang term for like praising of oneself, right? Basically, I just expected them to be praising their achievements against the Roman Empire during the early Muslim expansion. But if you made it all the way here, if you have any suggestions to me, go comment down below. Eventually, I will get to it. If you are new to my channel, of course, go subscribe. Go check out my other reactions. I have plenty of reactions on my stuff like this by now. Definitely go check that out, man. Make sure you like the video so that my stuff stays on the algorithm, you know, so that YouTube knows that you're liking my stuff, unironically, right? So that, you know, we get more people here just like y'all, man. All right. Thank you for watching and goodbye.